Upgrades.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Wheel of Time recap and review episodes with Nat and Terrell as we talk about the greatest show on Amazon Prime next to Lord of the Rings. Well, you know the order. I'm not gonna get into it with you guys. But episode 7, as far as we know right now, the title is Daes Dae'mar.
Daes Dae'mar.
Yeah. So we're giving you a recap of that. Just talk about that. Also got a few comments that were left on the previous videos. I just wanted to talk about that. Probably talk about that after as we get to the end. So we got a little bit to talk about. And I'll check both of the channels just to see what was left behind there. Before we even get into the recap, I mean, you already know what we do here. Nat, what was your feelings on episode 7? Like, did this pretty much? I feel like you had a lot to say last week that you really were holding back. Like, I was asking questions, you were like, "Nah, I can't. I want to say it, but I can't say it." Did this reveal everything that you wanted to say last week?
Well, I kind of hinted that Moraine was shielded, and I was right. But a lot of fans were, especially book readers, were kind of thinking, okay, well, based on what we know, it seems like she's shielded, and yeah, how she was shielded is correct. However, I did feel like this episode was rushed, especially like the last, I want to say 30 minutes. There was just a lot of info dumping and just a lot of like quick wrap ups that I don't know was, it's kind of hard to explain. Like, it was either like an afterthought or just like, we need to get here so we can move to the finale. And I'm just like, that, why?
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that has no pre-knowledge of the series and where it's going, I could still see it. We knowing that we only have one more episode after this. I'm not sure what the chunk of story that they had there. Did they try to make this last episode the finale, probably tie a bow, because we already know we got a third season. As far as I know, it's already kind of written. We know we have one more season. But it's definitely a lot of stuff that they've been pacing around from the beginning of the show. It's like, all right, let's explain this, explain that. Let's go. Let's go ahead and take care of Moraine. Let's take care of this. Let's hurry up and get this war started. So I can definitely see it, but at the same time, like I said, just not knowing how to, knowing what the pacing is supposed to be didn't bother me that much. Kind of like, similar to, watching an anime and the manga, how the manga's pacing. You're like, this is, what's this filler, or what's this going to, like, I know this is supposed to be. So I definitely get what you're saying. But it's like, as a not knowing the book, having book knowledge, it didn't bother me as much. I thought it was pretty still pretty good. The stuff with Egwene, I just it making it sound like every week I just don't like the character. I don't want that to be the case. I really like Egwene, and I really, like I said before, I really feel like she has the potential to be really, really powerful, like have a different type of control of this power that she had to go, obviously, through other methods. But before I go too deep into that, let's actually talk about the episode. Like you said, you felt like it was rushed. It was okay. Like, this just felt like, the lead into the finale, basically, of every show that exists. How they do it. They give you a little bit, and okay, here's a cliffhanger. What were we about to say?
No, I was just gonna say I didn't hate it. It's just again, it felt rushed, especially in the last half. That I feel like they could have. I wish there was more time to slow it down, because I feel like it could have been wrapped up better.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, with TV shows not being on network television these days, they can kind of just do whatever they want. If this needed to be an hour and a half, it probably could have been. If it needed to be 2 hours, it probably just whatever. It's not, but I'm sure the budget still exists. So we got to keep it within an hour, while also getting those nighttime shots, because this is the show. The show, we got to get everything at nighttime. But as we get back into the show, we get a recap of Moraine and Siuan. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Moraine and Siuan. We have a flashback
Hmm.
to 20 years ago when Renna,
20.
like what was happening around the same time. Um, and we like the Aes Sedai that they were with had a foretelling, and a foretelling are pretty much like Aes Sedai that can either see like the future or like live have a sense of the future.
Yeah, it
So
felt like
like they'll
she was
yeah.
actually feeling it as well,
Mhm.
which I thought was interesting. I'm like, is she feeling that birth? And I completely forgot about that scene. That was obviously one of the most that was one of the scenes that really like dragged me into the show because like, oh man, this is like the action sequence where like she's fighting for her life, she's taking out this guy after that, the third, and then she has the baby, and I completely forgot about that. Um, did they ever show the baby before? Or am
Mhm.
I okay? So because at that time, because I feel like it was a whole mystery of like who was the dragon reborn, and this whole time, like it was clearly Rand. Like it couldn't have been anybody else. Because at the beginning, there was like, okay, it could be one of you, five or six, and clearly there's only one choice here. So when I saw it again, I was like, why do I not remember the baby being like initially shown when they first showed it? Like I feel like they just she had it, and we kind of see it, but we don't know if it's a boy or girl or whatever the case may have been at that time.
Well, what was happening was it was pretty much showing that Rand was the Dragon Reborn in that
Mm.
episode. Episode 7, ironically, last season. So this was a good callback to that, especially with the foretelling and from Moraine and Swan's point of view, because they were trying to like live their life as Aes Sedai. Like Swan was going to meet Moraine's family, and if you noted that at the time, uh, her dad was alive, and so when we think about the conversation last week with Lady Anver and the fact that she wasn't there, well, her searching for Rand is what kept her from going to her dad when he was dying. Um, so that mission, that purpose was more important. Like she had to drop that. Like she had to drop those family ties, which is why like they have a they're not as close as they once were. So there is definitely a lot of circle backs or callbacks to even previous episodes of the season, as well as even season one, especially with Swan and Marine's relationship. And we're probably going to get into that a little bit more too. So.
You've mentioned a few times since we've been doing this that kind of like mirror like episode 7 is like reflection of episode 7. Episode 6, there was something in season 1 of episode 6 that was kind of like something going on. Is that like a trend they've been doing this entire time where like, okay, these are like mirror episodes, no puns here, but like is they trying to like have a whole wheel a circle around like it's to like
Well, this is the Wheel of Time, but but I think it was more so, and this is kind of the same thing in the books too. Like it's kind of like stuff happens. They do a lot of foreshadowing, and so you're seeing it pay off later on, and then that's when you remember. Oh, remember this, and this. This makes more sense now. So in that sense, kudos. Um, so a lot of what was happening with Swan and Moraine in this episode was a callback to last season as well as what's happening this season. There's a lot of stuff that happened off screen, like Moraine and Swan communicating with each other. We find that out that they've been communicating with each other, kind of like last week, but definitely for sure this week through their conversation. Um, and some of the decisions that were made or conversations that were had between her and Swan and even Marina Land is kind of like your decisions or your actions are having consequences. And we were seeing that in this episode too.
right. So what sorry, I was dying like off screen. So one of the things I noticed was Moraine and Siuan, like just like their behaviors were like they kind of had the attitudes or the mindset of like younger women. Whereas though like they're like super serious now. And this was 20 years ago, like you said. Um, they were a little bit more playful. They were like, they seemed like they had the whole world ahead of them. Like this was the plan. And then it was like, all right, at some point it's like, oh, now we've grown up. I just, they try to give us a little bit of like what they were like at that time, but obviously there's still like a void of time like right there. They don't really give us, and I wonder if we're gonna get a little bit of more of that in episode 8, is to kind of like what happened to kind of change them so much. Because even in like last season where we see them reconnect in the tower, they have their little moment, and then they kind of go about their way. It was just like, all right, now we back to business. We can't do this. So I'm hoping like episode 8 that we get a little bit more of kind of the relationship between them, because like I said, we only got like maybe 4 or 5 minutes of kind of what their relationship was like 20 years ago.
Well, by the end of this episode, they ain't together, or at least
Maybe.
there's a rift. There is a insurmountable rift. It feels like, because Moraine went with Lanfear to go to Falme, and Siuan, the mindset that they're no longer in sync. Uh, Siuan is really by the book, and in a way, she has to be because she's the Armelin seat. Because as the Armelin seat, there is a risk if she makes the wrong move. And the fact that they even never told anyone about this is a potential disaster, or someone finding out that that's how long that they've known. It's bad enough that Alana and Perrin know, but it's kind of like oh, it's they don't know what happened 20 years ago, or that's what they've been doing for 20 years, looking for Rand. I think it was more like, oh, she just happened to find him, and this is where we are. At least I think from Alana and Baron's point of view, just based on what little information that we can glean from what they know, and the fact that they're still willing to help because their views are very similar to Moraine's. It's kind of like Moraine needs to do what he needs to do in order to proclaim himself, but we'll support him in a way that we can, in any way that
Right.
we can. So
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like right after that, we kind of just pick back right where we left off. With them kind of being called up, because my man Landon went and snitched. He had to do what he had to do. And Rand, was talking to Siuan and Emlyn, and she's talking to him about what he has to do, what he should be doing, and he tries to flex his little bit of power in the room, and she quickly lets him know, like, look, if all it takes is me, and you've had 6 months to do what you need to do, then you clearly not ready. And she quickly puts him on his knees and does that. Now, does her power kind of like differ from any other Aes Sedai? Because I mean, they really don't show her too much. Like, obviously, she's got to be like the strongest or whatever here, but like, is her power, the way she channels, different from them?
well, I think everyone kind of uses their power differently, and how they learn is sometimes reflected in how they, do the one power. Sometimes they're again more proficient in certain elements versus others. Like considering when we first met Swan, she was good at untying things with the one power. So she's good, and plus her father was a fisherman. So I think as she progressed and learned the one power, she probably got proficient in the spikes and and tying knots and all that good stuff. So and other things too. So like shields would probably be something that she would be good at, because of how she grew up and how she progressed learning the one power. We don't really get into that too much in the books. Like I said, like we don't really see her using the one power a lot. So this was really refreshing to see, um, from at least this early. If I can't really say why I said that, but and there was just a lot of foreshadowing in that scene, especially when she was like, "Look, if I can take you down, and it's just me, and you're supposed to be the dragon reborn,
Right.
yeah, we have a problem." But I think what we're not understanding is Rand needed time to process, and unfortunately, because Ashamio and Lanfear are out and about, it's kind of like, all right, we gotta. Time is of the essence here, and even with we saw last week with Rand, he's like, I don't have time. Now he's being really instinctual. Like it's just a lot of stuff is going by instinct with him. But he really does need to learn what he's doing, or be cognizant, more cognizant of what he's doing. said that last week too, and it was very prevalent this week. But again, a lot of foreshadowing. It gave us a taste of what. Yeah, I can't say anything more about that, but yeah, that was definitely a foreshadowing scene. Very, very much. Ooh, that had me excited a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Since the show began, or maybe this season in general, we just heard so much about what Rand is supposed to be, what he's supposed to do, and this self doubt that that we hear all the time, and it's I hate to make this comparison, but like it's very similar to like an anime character's like power growth of power. Like, oh man, I didn't know that they tap into it, but like it seems to be behind like some type of emotional or like a memory or something that has to trigger for his full power to be unleashed. Because like he said, he's been using it instinctually, not on purpose. It's kind of been like reflex, for the most part. So I'm hoping, and I mean, I can't really say I hope. I mean, episode 8, next week after this, if we're gonna be, if there's not enough time to give every character, the bow in this season that is it, because I mean, obviously this is gonna be a cliffhanger, but it's just like how much can we do within this this last episode. But getting off the path here. We jump back to Matt after that whole conversation because he's just a side character at this point. Ishii pops up on him because he just likes to do that. It's just rude the way he is. No knock on the door. Hey, I'm here. I just been standing here watching you the whole time. Which was interesting because before this, Matt gets snatched by Matt gets snatched by Celine in the scene after this. And which already, confirms my point that she's able to teleport. Okay, so why was she able to teleport here and not directly to Moraine and Rand where they were? I know you say you can't get into that because it spoils something else entirely.
She said it's her secret for now,
right.
And I have to respect that. But you are warm in that theory of how she's able to get from point A to point B with their mechanics. Yeah, I can't get into that right now. So I'm really hoping that by them showing that they'll eventually get to it.
So. The only thing I could think of, and it kind of popped in my head, was like maybe when Matt touched that dagger, it gave him some connection to whatever dark crap they got going on, and whoever shares that they can jump to, because everybody that I've seen so far that they've kind of jumped to has had like some connection with like that dark force or whatever. They haven't been able to just kind of do it with anybody to the most part. They seem like, because if they could have, they probably would have made their jobs a lot easier. If they could just teleport and just jump to whoever they wanted. But that's just a theory. It's not confirmed. I just toggle it in my head about the teleportation thing, and why they're able to do it. More so her. I'm sure that's just a her power set, and not Ishii here. So just kind of confused there. But yeah, so they have that conversation. Everybody is the Met Celine at this point. As she has that whole conversation with Matt, and again, reifies that he's just a pawn in this entire game, which he feels like it. I know you said he gets a brighter star at some point. I hope so. But he's just a side character, to me. Then we get into our favorite character, Egwene. It's her and Renna. Getting a little bit more of the scene where she's training to use his power. And I thought it was definitely funny that she said that she allowed her to keep her name. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so what would the name have been? So I don't know if that's one of those things like, okay, maybe that's something they changed in the show that was in the books. Like she did give her like a name, and they changed it. Oh, she did keep it the same.
It initially she was Egwene, but I can't. It's a little too soon to be saying. We may get into that in the season finale. I'm hoping we get that in the season finale. Then I can talk about it. But for now, I can't talk about it. But what I do want to point out is Egwene was definitely showing her defiance and her determination to be her and know where she came from. Because if you notice, she was braiding her hair, and that was,
I
something
didn't
that's like
notice
very
that.
important with the two rivers. Is like how important the braid is, um, as far as her connection to home. So she's in her own way being defiant, even though it seems like she's playing along. So even when she was like, "I'm going to kill you," oh, she's serious. She gonna find a way. Oh, she gonna find a way. And that's the Egwene that we know, that we love from the books. We saw it last week, just especially when she heard that Mygon was a sitter and she was like next door to her. That look of determination on her face, that she's like, "Nah, they may have won this round, but I'm gonna win it at the end of the day. You did not break me." Um, so again, definitely another good performance by Madeline Madden, and of course the actress that plays Renna. Um, Even with the training session, she didn't use the movements that the other demonic use for that move. She didn't use our movement. She just used her power. So that's another level of defiance. She knew the weave, but she didn't use her hands.
Which
And
I
that is a thing with the girls.
right.
They don't like to use, they can help it. They try not to use their hands when using the one power. And even you saw that a little bit with Elaine in episode 5. So, unless they're like holding something, or unless they're like learning maybe a weave sometimes, they try not to use their hands.
I did notice that. When they come into the scene, Raina is like, "Yeah, you're not gonna have to. Pretty much, you don't have to do X, Y, Z. I already know you. This is natural for you. All you're doing is pushing air here, and we pretty much just measure. They're out here measuring strength to see who can do what.
Mm-hmm.
And again, kind of jumping back to my point, like Egwene is, really powerful for whatever reason. The show and maybe the books seems to want to like kind of put that down a little bit. I don't understand why. Like they almost want to make her the side to Nynaeve, which we know what Nynaeve she can do, but she can't, again, going through the same Matt issue. She can't figure it out. She can't push past her feelings. She had this magical kid in under the bridge, so now she can't get over that. Still processing that because it was real to her. So I understand, but every character has to deal with like this emotional damage. I hate this emotional damage that they have to deal with to unlock their next level. But I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really the way they showed that. Um, that the way she cleared that space and on the same time pushed every woman out the way, which they kind of didn't come back to at all. They didn't really talk about that, like, oh yeah, she was just supposed to do XYZ, but I guess we're out here demonstrating power. You're just in the way.
Well, it wasn't noticeable. So I, as a watcher and as a book reader, noticed it, and you noticed something was slightly different. Like if there was some level of defiance, even though she did what she needed to do.
Right.
So even with Raina, like Raina didn't even notice. So because she was like washing her hands, it's kind of like Raina keeps on thinking that Egwene is going to become the pet that she wants, and Egwene's like, nah.
Not today. You not like I'm still.
Nah.
Yeah, I just needed that water. um,
Exactly.
so yeah, like I said, I want to see. Hopefully Raina dies. I mean, she really hasn't done anything to deserve it just yet. Like but she's probably gonna get got. Probably not this next episode because she's probably gonna be around for a while. Like I have a belief. But yeah. We cut back to Matt and Ishi talking. Like I said, he popped back into the room. He explains, I got this magic homebrew tea. You go ahead and take a sip. No more than a certain period of time, you're gonna be able to live your past lives. You're gonna be able to see things that you've always wanted to see. And he explains like this was the best sleep he ever had. I might have to try some of that tea myself. I was really I might have to try some of that. It looked like that was a good time, but maybe you can give me a little bit more of like again, because I feel like they, like you said, it felt like they kind of rushed through it a little bit. I feel like it could have been more, because through the scene we see Matt like sees an image of his mother, and has kind of like a nightmare scene, but give a little bit more to like what was supposed to have been going on here. I feel like it kind of went over my head.
This is kind of getting into territory that this was introduced in a way that I was not expecting. It is and the thing is, I don't know, because Ishi is the father of lies. Was it even true as far as like what the tea was supposed to give him? Is it really his lies? Is it the future? Is it something in between that gives him nightmares? Like, is this his own perception just manifested in different lives? Or is this really past lives? And it's like it's only showing him negative stuff. I don't know if it's okay to talk about this yet, because I feel like this is not fleshed out as well. But let's just say the concept of past lives is a thing with Matt. And right. I'm hoping it's manifested in a way that makes more sense. And it brings about his coolness. So this is kind of like a wait and see. But I did appreciate the nightmarish aspect in the way that it was shot. Even though it was confusing, there were like nuggets here and there that it was like, okay, oh, all right. That's what made me think maybe it's the future, not the past so much, but maybe a version of the past. And it was like when Ishi woke him up from his nightmare, it was kind of like he was in this dazed drug state to the point where he felt like he wanted to commit suicide. I mean, that's what I'm assuming. That was the code that they were using as far as like not, going to sleep permanently or, not waking up, like not wanting to, because he is so ashamed. He's afraid of being, and this was confusing for me too. It's like, if you were going to show that he's just like his dad, why not show his dad? But again, with Ishi explaining that this is his past lives, these are his past selves, right. Doing all of these horrible things. Now, granted, his dad may not have murdered anyone, but he's still a prick. Like, he's still not someone that's a good person. So, that was a very interesting but confusing scene. And like you said, it did feel a little rushed. I don't know where they're going with that, but there's potential in that. I just need them to do a little bit better and explain like what exactly is happening.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, hopefully you can get a little bit more elaborate. I mean, it definitely. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been eyeballing these books all week. Like, man, I really want to order this. I'm not sure what like the right edition is, because I really, but at the same time, I still want the element of surprise of like what everything that's to come, and I want to keep that. maybe I'll go back and read just maybe like the first few that doesn't catch up to this point. But I definitely want to get the a little bit more elaboration on certain things, but from the text standpoint.
Well, okay, so if they conclude the Great Hunt in the next episode, it may be safe to read the first two books, but there are some things that they kind of left out from book two that they may bring back up later, or just maybe something that they just don't do at all. It's really hard to tell. Like, there are characters that have not been introduced yet that are in books 1 and 2 that are probably going to get introduced in season 3. Just based on the casting that I've seen so far. Okay. And some name drops, of course. It'll just be a matter of if you want to at least be spoiled in that sense of knowing characters that are coming, and not necessarily decisions that were made. So it's up to you.
We're definitely going to see. As we cut right back into, cut some scenes in, we jump back into Perrin and Aviendha. As we haven't seen them in like 3-4 episodes. It feels like me.
No, they were in episode 5.
Were they?
So yeah. See, episode 6 was really emotional, and a lot of stuff happened in episode 6. So I knew that we were going to get back to Perrin and Aviendha in this episode because we didn't see them last week. So we didn't see Min this week, which was interesting. So that's like I think the only like character that they kind of consistently been showing that we haven't seen this episode. Out of all the characters, because this is the first time Matt and Perrin. Well, never mind. They were in episode 1 together, just briefly. As far as us showing what they were doing, so never mind.
Right.
So this is, I think, maybe the first time we've seen like all the characters in one episode, except for Min.
Yeah, I think you got a point.
At least all the main characters.
Yeah, definitely got a point. I feel like everybody, but at the same time, not everybody got equal time. I mean, I guess that just wasn't going to be a thing. I said a parent. This whole thing with Perrin was like less than 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe. I'd
probably say 5 minutes. He was like sprinkled here and there, but it wasn't much going on with him. He's still on his way to Falme. That's pretty much what it was. And we get introduced to Bane and Chia. Yeah, they are characters. They're cool Aiel women that they're in the book. So hey guys, what's up? And we get introduced to maiden hand talk, which is kind of like sign language that the maidens talk. Unfortunately, we did not get like subtitles when we saw the episode. So I'm gonna have to, of course, watch it when it actually airs to see what they were actually saying. We saw like one thing, but like the rest of it, you can kind of glean what they were trying to say, but like the fact that she had toe and that's why they beat her up. But yeah, it would have been nice to have subtitles.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you what the heck was going on, but they explained that all that right there. I was just like, I even went back and watched the scene. I'm like, I still don't know what is going on right now.
Yeah, they were talking in, kind of like sign language, just hand talk. It's called maiden hand talk. Yeah.
Speaking of which, why does Perrin feel like he needs to help everybody out, man, and jump in every fight? If he
it's his protective nature. I mean, he's a gentleman at the end of the day. Even though if Aviendha can handle herself, and it was obvious that she was like wanting to get the legs. But I don't know. I think it was just an instinctual thing. Like he wants to help. Like he doesn't understand what's going on, so that's why she had to explain later why she was getting beat up, and she was just taking it versus like defending herself.
Right.
It's one thing if she was defending herself and they were actually fighting that he could feel more comfortable jumping in. And it's kind of like glad that I can't remember if that's Bane or Chiad who said, don't, because it's obviously a thing that they need to work through. So that's a little bit more into Aiel culture. I think that's pretty much what it was. So it was still nice. Oh, and they did a little sidebar of like, so you married, right? Or you tied to someone? So you can't have more than one?
You too.
No, okay. So that is a thing with the Aiel that they're probably going to get into a little bit more once we really get into Aiel culture, which I'm looking forward to seeing. They're major players in this series, so I'm really looking forward to meeting more characters. Some of my favorite characters in the books were definitely Aiel, just as a culture, except for one they can kick rocks. But the rest of them are really cool. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more Aiel in the coming seasons.
Definitely, if that's something you're looking forward to, I need to be seeing it. So I hopefully we got time and hopefully we get the seasons. I mean, it's been going. I cross my fingers every year. Put this on my list to pray. Like hopefully, because I definitely want to see how this plays out. That and Lord of the Rings. So so we get more of that. We jump into the snake herself, Liandrin. at Moraine's old crib, at old house. It just shows up like right after the situation, and we later found out why. You know, as the nephew told mom to go upstairs. We have an adult conversation.
It was the bass in his voice for me. I was like,
yeah.
Where did and as soon as he had bass in the voice, I was like, oh, we on that. Okay.
not in this house. But yeah, we talked to Liandrin, and she comes in and say, I need you to take that down. you can't have that up no more. It's not gonna work. And I just thought that thing, as they get into the conversation, we later found out that this man has sold his soul to the Dark Ones and is working with everybody. And it made perfect sense as to how information was coming, was coming together. I just thought it was wild. And it was just like, man, thought you loved your aunt, man. This is not cool. This is not cool.
He does love his aunt, but because of his orders, he felt like he didn't have a choice but to take out Moraine. Moraine wasn't even there. She was still at the palace. that was hilarious to me. I'm like, you actually believe that your aunt was in a dungeon somewhere in your house?
Right. How do you get to the palace so fast? How do you get to the palace so fast? I'm just trying to figure out the geography of like where's where, like from where the house was to the palace, or did they take one of these like little magical portal gates they be using?
No, I think it's not too far from the palace, because at the end of the day, the Dae'mar were like a noble house, so they're in that nice section of the neighborhood. So it's probably not super far from the castle, but because Moraine wasn't even at the house, it was just Liandrin. She stopped by and dipped, and then like Bathanas had apparently ordered, either find Moraine or help sedate her so I can kill her. But he was set up by his mom because mom wasn't having it, so she pretty much turned him into like the royal guard. Now this whole thing is different. I knew Bathanas was a dark friend, but I didn't know how it was going to be revealed. I thought that they would twist it and have Lady Anvir be dark friend and not him. So I'm kind of glad that they kept it, but it still felt like a 180 or like it still felt rushed. And then, is it resolved? Are we still going to get what we're going to get from the books, or is this did they just quickly wrap up his arc as being revealed as a dark friend, and we're just not going to see it anymore? And that's what I don't know. And that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. Good, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because it's like pretty much heard that like if you snitch, then I'm gonna kill your mom. You're gonna lose everything. As we figure out, like, they're being pretty much financed, they're being put to power by, this is the deal they made. How do you think we got where we got, Ma?
And I felt bad for Lady Anvir because I think part of her wanted to go about it the right way to restore honor. Like, she's all about honor. And because I don't know if they haven't really gotten into the background yet on what the uncle did to disgrace the family. They probably are going to get into it because of connections. But they were disgraced. And so it took her a long time to get to that point, but apparently it wasn't by honest means. And I think she has to reconcile that for herself. Again, good stuff, and especially it's good background for Moraine as a character. Especially the family dynamic, even as frustrating as it was at times, and the fact that at the end of the day she still pushed Lan away. And I think her pushing Lan away came about these decisions that are coming up now, and the fact that she is now in the doghouse and vice versa with Swan. Like, her decisions to push Lan away led up to this. in a roundabout way, yes. But yeah.
He better than me, man. I was thinking that the whole time. This guy better. You tell me once, I'm out. that he's not gonna do it. He stuck around. I don't know what that connection was feeling like, but it ain't that good, bro.
It's the bond. It's definitely the bond.
Yeah.
And I think he believed in her mission. Like he understood that she was on a mission to help Rand. So the fact that she had to push him or felt she had to push him away wasn't. I that part always bugged me, and him telling or being forced to tell what he knows. It not everything, but enough of it is kind of like that's not Land. Land would like not tell a soul unless Moraine said it was alright. But because they haven't been communicating, it was kind of like he was between a rock and a hard place. So again, Moraine pushing Lan away caused him to find Siuan, which caused Siuan to go to Carian, which caused her to be like, look, Rand, we need to follow the rules at this point because what you doing didn't help. So, and now they're on the outs, and now Siuan is in a precarious position because him escaping and everything that's happening in Carian is on her watch.
Right.
So that's not a good look for her as the Amulet Seed.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good look, bro. That's definitely not a good look. Not at all. Man, where were we? We were talking about. So yeah, we get Rand using I guess I don't know if I can't tell if he's using his ability to do this like dream astral projection thing, or he's kind of calling himself out to Lanfear, like to be pulled into this realm, whatever they got going on here. Like,
it's just the dream world. So like he's able, probably because he's a powerful channeler. He can just go to the dream world, and he probably in his own way called to her, or because that seems to be their meeting place where he was tied up last week. So he figured that's probably like a good place to start and see if she pops up and be like, hey, what's up? So I think he did fall asleep to get to her and be like, look, can you help me out? And I don't know what it was when she was just walking and of course like creating chaos and whatnot. And I just thought like, I guess the IG reel that's like, or the audio, like, my man, thank you too much. I don't know why I was thinking that. She was like getting her dude, like she was getting her boo. Like
I was thinking waiting to exhale when I saw that scene because she's just
like, yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely like they really wanted to like show her like really coming for this guy for whatever connection they got going on.
She is still low losing. She's still hoping. She's still hoping that her connection to him, she put it on him so much that he's still in love with her. But I'm glad that she finally wore white. White is Lanfear's signature color. And up to this point, she hasn't really been wearing white. Like there are shades of white, but her like overcoat was white. It still looked really cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like she was still slaying. But yeah, I mean, it's just the ease in which she uses the one power. Like you could tell there was a stark contrast between her and the Aes Sedai. Like the levels are just not. It ain't there, y'all. Y'all got y'all work cut out for y'all.
Jeez, I don't know, but was something I noticed is like he asked her for help to get her out. She comes in, regardless of he should have known that she's going to come in and kill people. That's on him, right? Like that's crazy. But I think when he gets rescued by the Aes Sedai, he's surprised. Like he didn't think that they were going to do that. And at the same time, in the chaos, I think at the end, where Celine comes in, he completely forgot that he called her. like he kind of looked at her surprised, like, oh shit, I forgot. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of like, considering the chaos that was happening, it was kind of like okay, dude, you should know that she's the one that's creating this chaos, right? To get to you. Because you called her. You said, help me out. So yeah. And I think maybe at that point, maybe he thought that he would be gone. See, this is where the pacing was a little bit off for me. I felt like they were taking too long, but at the same time, they were rushing.
Right.
To like finish this plot point. But these things keep happening that's causing drama.
I noted the scene where she's about to kill her, and he's like, "No, don't do it." Obviously, that's supposed to implant like trust in her to know that he can be trusted to a certain point. Maybe she feels a little bit more confident, but we kind of close off this whole thing with, feeling of betrayal here. And like you said, closing the chapter on that friendship, that relationship that they had. Like, because she looked back and was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm gone.
So you're referencing Siuan and Moraine, right?
Moraine, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
After she feels like she lied, that she just got her power back 5 seconds ago. If you would have got here earlier, you would have seen what was going on. Yeah,
because she's bound by the 3 oaths, she was like, yeah, I have not lied to you. This is fairly new development, but she did. It's kind of like, again, they rushed things, so they couldn't take the time to really communicate. So I felt like that made it feel like it was rushed, but at the same time taking too long. Right. Like, there could have been dialogue. Y'all could have had that conversation. Like you said, all she had to do was say, "I literally just got my powers back." Like, she could have added that. Like, if y'all were going to take your time and having this conversation, you could have added that. Like, because if you're lying, that implies that you're Black Aja, right? Because that's that's the understanding that we have. You're able to break your oath. And if that's the case, then she wouldn't have been able to close the way gate on her command from the oath rod. Like,
I'm about to ask you about that. So she has like a master override of like other Aes Sedai that she can control them.
Okay, so last season when they created the plan of sending Moraine away, they did the oath rod. They swore an oath on the oath rod that she would obey her, and when she calls her home, that's when she'll go home, meaning the White Tower. So, but she specified Siuan Sanche, not the armament seat, because if you just say the armament seat and being really general and not specific, it could be anybody. Siuan doesn't always have to be the armament seat. It could be anybody. So that's why she specified, I will obey Siuan Sanche. So when Siuan was like, close the way gate, you could see the power force her to do it because of the oath that she swore.
Right. So you're kind of being puppeteered there, like a little bit, like.
Yeah, and that was just after getting her powers back and feeling relief. Like, Heffa, no. And what really irritated me was when Siuan was like, you fail at the eye of the world. Like, Heffa, your dreams was what told us to go to the eye of the world in the first place. So it's on both of us that we failed and brought the Forsaken out and about. Like, you told us to go there. Is she tricked you, my guy, my girl? So that frustrated me a little bit too. I'm like, Heffa.
So you kind of see, like, it looks like Moraine's crying a little bit in the scene. It wasn't as clear as I would have been. It looked like she was kind of being restrained. Like, did she have to do that? Like, you can kind of see her like wanting to kind of cry a little bit here.
Yeah, because it's kind of like their relationship is turning to a point that they can't turn back from.
Right.
So enforcing her to do something that she doesn't want to do based on the oath rod. Like, she was like, if you ever loved me, don't do this. And she commanded her. Like, Siuan, this is very different because Siuan and her were a little more of one accord in the books, and I don't know how I feel about that. But it still does set the tone because Siuan went there by herself. there are no witnesses to whatever conversation that they have. And is she herself stilled, or is she just so I mean, it seemed like she was just knocked out, or the wind taken out of her. She should have been able to recover a little bit faster unless Lanfear did something. I don't know if she's shielded. I don't know if it didn't look like she was shielded, because I feel like we would have seen something other than the puff of air to knock her down.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't. So did she stay down? And I'm confused about that too. So like, why couldn't she get up? Was she that injured? Was that puff of air so hard on her body that she is like incapacitated? Like, I'm confused because Lamb recovered way faster than she did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Aes Sedai like more resilient to damage, or supposed to be, or something like.
And I noticed she didn't have a water, which I thought was interesting.
Does the Amulet have a water? Because
she had a she has a water in the book. Yes.
Okay. Who was it? Did they show it?
I didn't see one, so I don't think he.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
if she did, he would have been with her. So, I find that interesting that that's a change that they from the books.
So yeah, we get we like I said, we talking about this for a while, but like we get Lanfear here pretty much open that way gate up like with zero problem, like in half the time too.
Exactly. I'm like, Moraine doing all this, and Lanfear's like, open sesame, like
like, you coming, kid? Like, what's what we doing here? Because of you, I'm gonna let her live. I can only think what the consequences would have been. If she would have died there, I don't think it would have been a bigger deal. I don't think there would have been any assumption that Moraine did it. Yeah, probably would have been. But because they, after she was just so easily, after her Rand's jailer was so easily tricked. Oh yeah, somebody told me to come get you. I'm like, if it didn't come from me.
Now, Perrin did word that very carefully, because it looked like she lied, but I don't think she was lying, just because of how she worded, like, oh, the Armelin needs your strength. In a way, that's true. And then she was ordered. She could have been ordered by Lan. She could have been ordered by Moraine to relieve her. So she didn't necessarily say that Armelin asked me to relieve you. So she was very careful with her words. I was like peeping. I was like, all right, man. All right, just making sure.
I didn't even notice that. Like, yeah, like because they got the no lie bond or whatever they got going on here. Like,
speak no word that is not true.
Oh wow. So that just do they have to do this bond? Like, is that a part of them getting their powers, or just like is that just like their code?
Okay, so backtracking, the conversation that Liandrin had with Nynaeve back in episode 5 when they were in the waves, and she was like explaining how she turned in the dark and she broke oaths. Liandrin told the story of how the oath rod even came to be. Like, they were getting conquered. They had to promise to a king, Otter Hawkwing, that they would swear by the oaths. So that's how the oath rod came to be. That's how they had to swear oaths to become the Aes Sedai they are today, pretty much. So, yeah, that story is important. And I'm hoping that they get into that kind of like, hey, foreshadowing, hey, remember the story kind of a thing. So,
yeah, it would be nice. You said, man, we pretty much end our episode with them, walking through that portal anyway after she told her don't do it 18 times. She did anyway. They walked through the portal and she left her there. Her friend,
lover,
like this woman that she loved, like just left her there hurt. Don't know if she's fully alive or dead. And they really want us to feel here. But like you said, I feel like, man, I wanted more time just in this particular area of the show. And it felt like they had to like kind of throw everybody in there, or at least show them walking to their destination or doing something so that we can kind of pick that back up in the next episode, where we kind of probably didn't need to focus in on that. We probably could have saved it. Probably didn't need Perrin for the 5 minutes that we got of him.
I think it was a nice like switch up, but yeah, the main purpose again was to just to get him closer to Falme, so we'll know that he'll be there at the finale, pretty much. And yeah, as far as Land figuring out like that Moraine was shielded versus stilled, I'm like, we didn't have time to do all this. And was this like in between you forcing Alana to tell Alana about like Moraine and finding the Dragon Reborn? Like, where were all these conversations? I felt like a lot of these conversations were happening off screen, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, what are y'all doing? But I mean, in the conversation with him and Logain, while interesting, it was kind of. I wish y'all had done that earlier. Like, y'all could have done that a few episodes ago. Like, instead of just spending time at Alana's crib. Like, if you
Yeah.
were really that gung ho, and I think he had to get out of his feelings, and that's when he was like, okay, I need to do something. But it was kind of like, yeah, Land's story arc this season was pretty much the weakest. I did like the scene with him and Rand, because one of the complaints, and it's a valid complaint, is Land teaches Rand how to use, how to sword form. But Rand's kind of been learning on his own. So I'm hoping that by them having that conversation, we'll actually get scenes with them training with each other, because that is a very, they bond. And so I want to see that, and we didn't really get to see that in season 1. So I'm hoping that they're going to make up for that in the coming episodes. I know there's not enough time in episode 8, but definitely next season. And I'm thinking that conversation was the starting point for that finally.
Yeah. I'm hoping that season doesn't take too long to get to. But they said, I mean, I'm kind of, are we locked into 8 episodes a season, or can we do more? I know they're pretty long, but
they should have been able to do 10. I feel like we could have fleshed out a lot more stuff with 10 episodes.
right.
We haven't even touched Nynaeve and Elaine. Like, they capture Zuldon, and they chat with Loyal for a minute.
They did. Yeah, it was like in the middle episode. Yeah, we jumped to, but yeah, so they did have that conversation where he comes in, gets a little, dabs him up real quick, and you see a different side of Elaine here in this episode. Like she's like, nah, we tried your thing. It's a wrap. Like we gonna get to the plan, and we gonna save this girl. Like you want something else today. Like we gonna go save Egwene. Shut up. Stop! Don't make no noise. We're gonna get out of here. So they, like I said, they really didn't give them a lot here. Like we kind of, where I thought we were gonna see Egwene get released in the same episode. That didn't happen. Assuming that's obviously episode 8. But it's like at the same time, like it's jumping back to Egwene, it's like she hates this, but she also appreciates this method of like kind of seeing, like, it looks like she's kind of like seeing like a better, like the where her power is, because I always felt like she just was kind of like, yeah, I'm okay at this, like, it's just like, okay, no, you're more powerful than you think you are, as people were explaining this to her. And then, like I said, Nynaeve and Elaine, hopefully they don't get caught. You need to carry a couple of them collars around, though. Just start putting them on, because I think they only had that one collar.
They only have that one color. But I think with this, I hope that they're gonna keep what happens in the books, as far as like they do capture a Zuldon, but what they discover by them capturing the Zuldon, that's what I'm hoping that will do. So
Hopefully we got the time.
Facts. They're gonna make time. I have a feeling they're gonna make time, because this is gonna be like a foreshadowing for things to come, and hopefully to end the season, especially with the Sanche. So.
Yeah. So let me wrap this by saying I just want to read a couple of the comments that were made, just kind of probably referencing some stuff that we were talking about last week. I'll read this off. Alaminus 9145. Logain cannot see the weaves, but his talent lets him see people and the strength they are channeling. It implies that women sensing women is a universal talent in the books. I like this. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Well, as we know from this episode, he could see the weave, and that's a lore change.
Says the stuff in this episode is so much clearer in the books. I love the show made it more brutal.
Yeah, it was definitely
brutal. Both Ishii and Lanfear don't factor in the fact that they are trying to manipulate Ta'Veren.
Okay.
But I guess somebody replied to him, facts is like they're indirectly helping the light, but think the dark is working things in their favor. That was
that was me. Well, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like, are they weirdly working in the favor's light by torturing these kids to get to where they need to be? Like, the light, what you doing? Like, can we have an easier way of doing things?
Team light. Yeah.
Team light. Team the wheel. The wheel wants to keep turning, so it's going to do what it needs to do to make sure it keeps turning.
I want this one real quick before we get out of here, but there was a comment made about how the Dragon Reborn was the water that turns the wheel. He's the thing that makes everything the way everything. Yeah, the reference to that.
Yeah, that was Swan. Swan made that.
Okay.
That quote. It was a cool quote.
I thought that was interesting. Like, okay, again, we're telling you how powerful you are, sir. What you mean to the world. Why are you still in this self-doubt phase? Can we get with it? But yeah, this was
so it makes me wonder if Rand had progressed a lot farther to the point where she couldn't shield him. What was she gonna do? Was she gonna let him go? It's kind of hard to tell. But I'm just wondering. Let me know in the comments, y'all. Do you think if Rand had showed more progress, that Swan would have let him do what he needs to do?
Yeah.
And not shield him necessarily, or wish he had still followed the rules and still tried to shield him? Let me know in the comments, y'all.
If he ain't have bogus teachers that both don't have no abilities or powers, like, hey, you've had 6 months, as she said, like, what have you been doing? Like,
well, I mean, the way that Moraine arranged it seemed like Rand wanted to work his way up to Sea and Logain, so y'all could have fast tracked him, and we could have had him with Logain from the jump, like,
right. Logain,
they could have been having conversations, but then like Logain would have been like, he is a person, he is bitter about losing his powers, trying to teach someone who has powers that I no longer have how to use it. F you. That's why he was like, look, it took me years on my own to learn this stuff, and I'm supposed to teach you, and you're supposed to learn like that, bruh. Yeah. Leave it alone.
Yeah, totally. They're all anime characters. But yeah, great episode. Like I said, I really enjoyed doing this. I'm glad we got to do this today. I'm glad we also got the episode of another, early.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was my next comment? Oh, make sure, again, it's not sad. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you thought about the episode. Give us more things to talk about, as Nat's going to jump in and talk about it with you too. But yeah, like I said, if you had questions about the episodes, if you had similar thoughts to what we had, please leave them in the comments below. Leave them on both channels for Team JVS and Big Gold Belt, as we're doing this cross promotion to give you the best content possible on the Wheel of Time, because nobody's getting it as better as us. I know, because I watched the videos. I watched other people's commentary on the episode as well. But yeah, just let us know, and we can't wait for the finale of episode 8, which sucks. It's so far so soon.
Yeah, I wish we had more time with these characters. But there is always the books.
Give us some of that bonus content that's after the episodes. Do you X-ray when you watch it, like the actual prom? Like they give like stuff.
Sometimes I missed the extra like little episodes that we got in season 1 that explained the lore a little bit better, and it was like the animation was on point. We were supposed to get an episode about Malkir, and it never aired. I never saw it.
Wow.
It's kind of messed up because I would have wanted to see the fall of Malkier. Like that would have been really cool.
Just not enough time for them to give us anything. But before we get on a tangent and get into future content, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here, guys. Like I said, leave me a comment. Check out. Make sure you subscribe to both the channels. Check it out, and we'll see you again for episode 8. See you.
Bye.